A friend of mine was very close with the NFL. I said, why don't you make an NFL jacket? So I started making an NFL Giants jacket. And I said, I don't think we can. People at the time, people wouldn't pay $1,000 or $1,500 for a jacket. But I said, every team has 50 players, at least, or 100 players, whatever it is. And then between the 50 players.
Whoa. That's the second time that's happened today. I apologize about that. This is real-time issues while filming a podcast. We're going to go ahead and just retire this today. That just killed the vibe. My bad, brother. My bad about that.
Enough. So I said, even if I sell, let's say, a couple of hundred jackets a year, at $1,000, so that's a couple of $100,000 a year in gross sales. But that gives me a lot of prestige because obviously I love sports and I'm going to be associated with that. And lo and behold, the thing took off, and everybody said, we want to get the Bulls jacket, and we want to get the Lakers jacket. So I got the NBA license, and everybody wanted, at the time, you remember, like in the late 80s, everybody to the White Sox, and and
White
the
Sox
Yankees,
was so big, yeah.
White Sox, Yankees, and Bulls.
I had a White Sox hat in the 80s.
And Raiders, was crazy, So and I got the baseball and hockey, the Kings. Remember how big the Kings were also, even though, and people were not to be fans of it, but people, the colors, they didn't mean. And I started getting heavy into the sports and still continuing all the stuff for the celebrities, whether it was Mike Tyson's to, like I said, all the Motley Crues and Guns N' Roses.
You did a jacket for Bill Clinton?
I did jackets for a lot of the presidents. I did all the jackets. I did a lot of jackets for Donald Trump way back then for the casinos at the time also, and I knew him as well personally. But I'm not a fan, but that's on my own personal.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. I'm not a fan of the Orange Man either. But
actually, I was invited to go to the White House. I turned it down. So
I'm glad you turned it down. That guy's he's got a weird vibe to him. He's not really that hippie and not bringing the vibes.
For me, it's not about the money, not about the thing. It's just about what I feel in my stomach.
The ultimate goal of being an entrepreneur or businessman is being able to do what you want to do when you want to do it, to work with who you want to work with.
Exactly.
Not who you have to work with. So, but going back a little bit, we're talking about the 80s where MySpace, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook's not around.
Right.
How did you create a demand for the jackets prior to the NFL? So you made them for yourself to ride on the motorcycle. How did you get it? How were you sharing these and getting it popping? Were just people seeing you? Or
it's a good question. I'm not thinking about it. I have not thought about it. But the truth is, at the time, we used to do the trade shows.
Yeah.
I used to go to trade shows, and people would see. At the time, with the era of MTV, so you would see even the first video of Madonna, Borderline. The guy who's walking the street is wearing my jacket, and then George Michael. Everybody knows George Michael wearing those leather jackets, and Guns N' Roses. The Axl and Slash wearing the jackets, and one to the other would get it. And Dice, everybody knows Dice is known for the jackets, and it was word of mouth, and it just build up, but through the era of MTV, and then of course I was getting a lot of press, People magazine, and all the magazines, and I was getting that. And there was no Facebook, there was MySpace, no Instagram.
It was just it was like real television.
Right.
Just being in the mix, trade shows.
New Kids on the Block. New Kids on the Block might have been one of the biggest influencers of my brand because I was doing everything for them. And all those teen magazines, and they were in every single cover. And it was pretty much again magical. I had back-to-back magical stuff, and
that's crazy. I like stories like this because, here I am again in the clothing business and doing pretty well for what we are. We're more of a streetwear brand,
right, yeah.
But
and my stuff was really. Sorry to interrupt you, Bernard. My real success was always in the streets.
Yes,
the urban, what we used to call the inner city brands.
Yes,
and my market was really big in Philly and New York and Maryland and Boston. And the Midwest, Chicago, and more than even Los Angeles, because it was the kids wearing it, and we got the rappers to start getting involved in it.
Once you get the music and the culture of the rap community behind something, it goes. And that's how I popped off Cookies. But it's cool to see, even people in your lane that's big in the clothing and respected in the fashion industry, came with no knowledge, just passion and just work ethic and execution. A lot of people, if you're listening to this right now, don't feel defeated if you're not knowledgeable about a certain lane that you want to jump into, a certain industry, follow your dream because it's definitely possible.
Yeah, actually did a lot of stuff for Michael Jackson also, and in fact I designed all the jacket for the Victory Tour. And when I went to Michael Jackson's house, I mean, that became my motto. I kind of adopted it. You know, there's a big sign when you go into his house right here on Evanhurst in Encino. It said, "Those who reach touch the stars." So it became always, nothing is impossible. You just have to go and reach out and try to do it and believe in making it, and it happens.
What was it like working with Michael? Was he a cool cat? Was he?
I only met him a couple of times, but obviously, with the success I had with the guests, I bought a house in Beverly Hills and I was renting it to Jermaine, and that's how I started meeting the family. And one thing led to the other, and I started doing things. But it was great. I mean, they were great. I mean, they always.
What would a jacket that would go to someone like Michael Jackson, or Bill Clinton for that matter? What would that run? Like, what would you charge?
It depends. I mean, in the late '80s, I made a jacket for Michael Jackson. I was charging wholesale. It was $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, I mean, the ones for Bill Clinton didn't pay, but they were probably like a couple of grand at the time, and we had all different price points. At the time, my prices were probably from a retail from $1,500 to $3,000, and at the time, I was the only one who was selling like real expensive jackets. I would sell like jackets with a bunch of tattoos and stuff like that. They were like $4 or $5 grand, which is a lot of money in 1988, 1989. So.